Greetings and salutations, comrades. Hope this finds you well. Quick shout out to the two Uber comrades supporting my channel and this content on Patreon, my partner. Thank you, Rosa. And Independent Left News. Definitely check out Independent Left News. They are a great resource indeed. So, probably most of you, I would think, have heard of Stephen Donzinger, the human rights kind of attorney lawyer who was part of a legal team that helped when I believe it was a $9.5 billion settlement in the Ecuadorial court system for indigenous people in Ecuador against Chevron, because Chevron had dumped, I don't know, it was like millions or billions of gallons of, this toxic chemical, this toxic waste from, their oil drilling, their fossil fuel extraction, in that country, obviously, having hugely disastrous consequences for, the indigenous people, their way of life, the, environment there for their own health, etc. And as a result, Chevron has tried to make an example of him, and the U.S. court system here has, I believe, sentenced him to a six months in jail at this point for him, being part of this legal team that won this huge, massive settlement for these, indigenous people, indigenous communities in Ecuador. And it just happens to be that today is, Indigenous Peoples Day, as well. And, just the whole, court kind of legal injustice system, I would say, process against Stephen Donziger has been really, fraught with conflicts of, interest and just all these really messed up things. It's just a, miscarriage of justice, no doubt. So this is a pretty interesting article here at True Thought about this, and this was also the person that I believe, on one of the TYT live streams, Anna Kasparian said she would, look into this, and I doubt she ever did. I doubt TYT ever did, right? So here we go. Human rights attorney sentenced to prison after winning case against Chevron, and we've had, decent amount of, people come out in, support to show solidarity for Stephen Donziger. Susan Sarandon, the actress and activist, Roger Waters of Pink Floyd fame, and just overall seems like an awesome human being, have spoken out, in support of, Donziger, and, this witch hunt by, Chevron to, like I said, make an example of him, right? In a move calculated to shield Chevron and deter other lawyers from suing giant corporate polluters, U.S. human rights attorney Stephen Donziger was sentenced on October 1st to maximum of 6 months in prison for criminal contempt. Donziger, who had won $9.5 billion judgment for his indigenous clients against the oil giant for polluting the Amazon rainforest in Ecuador, refused to provide Chevron with his confidential client communications. Before his sentencing, Donziger spent 2 years in house arrest wearing an ankle bracelet and confined to him. Yep, forgot to mention that part. He had been locked inside his, New York apartment for 2 years while waiting for this to go to trial. Again, just a huge miscarriage of justice, right? When the next book is written, touting the American judicial system as one built on the rule of law, that shows the ways in which the rule of law prevailed over powerful and money interests. Donziger attorney Ron Kuby told Truth Out after sentencing, "I can assure you the Donziger case would not be included." U.S. District Judge Loretta Preska, leader of the Federalist Society, a group with, I believe, some Chevron funding, I think this gets into, right? Group dedicated to getting conservatives on the bench and promoting a radical right-wing ideology in which is financially backed by Chevron, was handpicked to try the contempt case. She found Donziger guilty of so again, this judge was literally handpicked by Chevron. Pretty fucking problematic, right? She found Donziger guilty of 6 counts of criminal contempt. As Preska sentenced, I remember this part, she sentenced Donziger. She stated, "Seems that only the proverbial 2x4 between the eyes will instill in him any respect for the law." Where the fuck is her respect for the indigenous people in Ecuador who were absolutely, devastated by by Chevron and these fossil fuel, industry that just, destroyed, their environment, their way of life, their health, etc. When Truthout asked attorney Martin Garbus, who also represents Donzinger, for his reaction to the judge's 6-month sentence, in threatening words, he replied, "Outrageous, predictable, very sad." Donzinger is the only lawyer who's been held in criminal contempt for trying to appeal orders which he believed violated the rights of his clients to enforce the judgment. Look at this. So this is why, Chevron was ordered to pay $9.5 billion. Chevron responsible for pouring billions with a B, of gallons of waste oil onto indigenous ancestral lands. And this fucking judge, again, that was handpicked by Chevron, has the fucking gall to tell Stephen Donzinger to respect the law. I mean, get the fuck out of here. Absolute fucking disgusting excuse for a human being. Donzinger has spent over 2 decades trying to hold Chevron accountable for pollution in the Ecuadorian rainforest. In 2000, Chevron acquired Texaco, which contaminated the water source in Ecuador's Lago Agrio region between 64 and 92. Lago Agrio is the ancestral homeland of more than 30,000 people. Texaco deliberately drained its toxic waste into rivers and streams whose water is critical to the survival of 5 indigenous groups and dozens of farm communities. Texaco created what is known as the Amazon Chernobyl. Again, literally dumping billions of gallons of these toxic chemicals into the Amazonian rainforest here in Ecuador. 2001, an Ecuador court found Chevron liable for serious environmental and health damage to the Amazon rainforest and the communities in the region. Court concluded that Chevron deliberately discharged billions of gallons of oil waste onto indigenous ancestral lands. Chevron was ordered to pay $19 billion to remediate the damages, but an appellate court reduced the judgment to $9.5 billion, which was affirmed by the Ecuadorian Supreme Court. I, with other lawyers, helped indigenous peoples in Ecuador win a historic $9.5 billion pollution judgment against Chevron for the deliberate dumping of billions of gallons of cancer-causing waste in the Amazon, Donzinger told Al Jazeera before sentencing. That's a historic fact. That case has been affirmed on appeal by 28 appellate judges, including the highest courts of Ecuador and Canada for enforcement purposes. So why am I the one being locked up? I help hold them accountable. And that's exactly the reason he's being locked up, because he was one of the people that helped hold these, corporate polluters responsible for literally, again, deliberately dumping billions of gallons of these cancer-causing, wastewater, laden with these just horrible chemicals. Judge Liz Kaplan manipulates case to benefit Chevron. Judge Kaplan picked the charges, picked the private prosecutors, picked the judge, remained a judge on this case. Kubing Garbus wrote in their sentencing memorandum, "Our long-term strategies to demonize Donzinger," Chevron stated in 2019. And again, they've been doing this for over a decade. Aided and abetted by Judge Liz Kaplan, Chevron made good on its promise. Jesus fucking Christ. Again, that's the exact reason he's being held accountable, because he was a part in this historic, settlement that Chevron had to pay, right? I'm gonna keep reading this, but hugely egregious. And 787 days of confinement. Donzinger had already served as more than 8 times the longest sentence given an attorney contemner for the same level of offense. Jesus Christ, man. 6 state Nobel laureates decry shameful attempt by Chevron to manipulate, abuse, and intimidate. 37 organizations representing 500,000 lawyers filed judicial complaint against Kaplan for violating duty of impartiality. Formerly filed with the National Lawyers Guild and the International Association of Democratic Lawyers, the complaint alleges that the statements and actions of Judge Kaplan over the last 10 years show him to have taken on the role of counsel for Chevron. Again, like all of these conflicts of interest, there's no impartiality on the part of Kaplan or the Judge Preska, right? Rather than that of a judge educating a live controversy before him. Added by these standards, he has violated his duty of impartiality under the canons of judicial conduct. The complaints were concerned that the persecution of Donzinger by Kaplan and Chevron have a chilling effect on the work of other human rights lawyers. And again, that's exactly the aim and purpose of it, very much similar to the US empire going after, Julian Assange. So, other, journalists or whistleblowers would think twice before exposing the crimes, of the US empire or other governments. So he's appealing a 6-month sentence, but he remains under house arrest since Prescott denies his request for bail. Chevron is now using me as a foil to distract from the plight of indigenous peoples in Ecuador who are suffering massive health problems because of the company's planet and people destroying practices. Donzinger wrote in a group email I received, "I'm the most convenient target to try and scare future environmental lawyers from seeking accountability for the industry's destructive operational practices. If I didn't exist, Chevron probably would have invented me." Boom. Jory Corn, professor emerita at Thomas Jefferson School of Law, former president of National Lawyers Guild. Boom. I mean, Jesus fucking Christ. Again, I wish I could say this shit is surprising. It's not deeply, deeply disturbing on every level, but we've never really had I would say, a justice system here in the United States. We've had a system that protects the interest of the wealthy, of the elite, of these big, massive, corporations, no matter how much harm they have done, whether in the United States or abroad. And more often than not, the law, the judges line up on their side and persecute people like Stephen Donzinger for standing up for these indigenous people, these indigenous communities in Ecuador who are facing the consequences of Chevron and Texaco before them deliberately dumping billions of gallons of these toxic wastewater into this pristine fucking rainforest environment. Just sick on every fucking level, right? Capitalism is the virus. This is just another example of that, unfortunately. Like the video if you like the damn video. Subscribe for more content. All part of the people. Peace.